SQL Server in Azure. Brief overview of a virtual network. So this is one of the first things you set up, right? Creating a virtual network establishes a private network within your Azure environment so that your virtual machines can securely communicate with everybody, with each other rather. You can connect your on-premise computers to your virtual network by virtual network gateway. That's this guy at the bottom. And you can have any number of subnets in your VNet, and generally a good idea is to map your subnets to the actual service that you're provisioning in the VNet, right? So a good example, like I said earlier, if these are your SQL servers, put them in a subnet called databases, right? And then you can quite easily then restrict traffic to only talk on 1433 between these two subnets, right? It's just a good practice of how to segregate your sort of workloads within your VNet. The way that you provide that security between those subnets are by those NSGs, which are called network security groups. They're very similar to, the concept is quite similar to an access control list in a Windows server, you know, where you say, okay, I want to give this guy full control, or I want to restrict to, you know, read only. Similar kind of concept, similar to, you know, traditional sort of firewall rules. VNet-to-VNet connectivity, you asked about this earlier, so a single VNet is scoped to an Azure region. You can do cross-VNet geo-redundancy and geo-presence by implementing a site-to-site VPN between two VNets, right? So that's pretty cool. You can use load balancing or traffic manager to then direct your traffic coming in. Let's say, you know, you're in Los Angeles and you've got some users in New York, and you've got the service running in East and West Coast. How would you get those users, you know, directed accordingly? Well, one of the services in Azure is called Traffic Manager, and that's sort of a geo-aware load balancer that says, okay, this IP address is West Coast, send him to the West region. Regional multi-tier applications with strong isolation boundaries. So within the same region, you can set up multi-tier applications with multiple virtual networks, all connected together, and you can ensure strong isolation and secure interconnectivity between those VNets. And cross-subscription inter-organization communication. So you can connect workloads from different subscriptions between different virtual networks if you want. VNet Peering, this is what I spoke to earlier as well. It's quite new, a couple of weeks old, this feature. And this basically allows you to connect virtual networks that are in the same region together without using a site-to-site VPN gateway. So basically you're just using the Azure backbone, right? So you're going over Microsoft's network to communicate between these two VNets. So pretty awesome that you don't have to spin up a virtual network gateway in each VNet and do the whole site-to-site connectivity piece. You just click a few buttons in the portal and bang, you're done. You can then have your virtual machines in one virtual network talking to the other virtual network without any routing necessary, right? It's really cool. So it's routed just like it is if you've got a virtual machine in the same VNet, right? Now you've got another VNet and another data center, but you're connecting them together over the Microsoft backbone. So pretty cool stuff. You have the ability to use resources such as network appliances and VPN gateways as transit points in a VNet. You're going to see a diagram in a minute that's going to show that in more detail. In fact, let's move on to that. So here, if you've got your on-premise environment, your data center sitting down here, you've got a VPN, site-to-site VPN established between your data center and your initial VNet. Let's say it's IT Hub in Azure. That's your first VNet. You got these other two VNets, and the primary thing to note here is that, you know, these network spaces are all unique, right? And they have to be unique, and they have to be unique not just within Azure, but also from your physical on-premise environments, right? Because if you've got this address space in use down in your on-premise environment, and then you connect your site-to-site VPN gateway, you're going to have an IP conflict there, and that's a big no-no. So basically, you set up peering between each of those VNets and have your site-to-site VPN connection. So then, Joe Blogg's sitting in his workstation here. He's able to go over the site-to-site VPN, get to everything in this VNet, but then because these are peered, he can also get to that machine. It's as if, it's your own. It's as if it's another branch of your organization. Network security groups, we spoke about a little bit already, so I'm not going to bang on about that. This is where you would see them in the portal. That's on the left, the old portal. This is a resource manager portal view of a network security group on the right. This is what you apply the NSG to, either the NIC of the VM or the actual subnet. And these are your inbound and outbound security rules, right? So that's where you would configure port access and subnet definitions and all the rest of it. Real quick, about 2 weeks ago, or whenever Ignite was, Microsoft announced that they'd done some, they introduced these FPGAs, which are basically hardware chips, right? I don't know, you heard of this? So these are chips that they started experimenting with these when they were looking at how they could improve the performance of the search engine Bing, right? So there was this, they spun up this project it was actually called Catapult, nothing to do with Catapult Systems, but Project Catapult was looking into how they could increase the performance of Bing. FPGAs, from that research, they then went on to apply these to their SDN, the software-defined network. Now you've got 25 gigabit per second on the Azure backbone, which is pretty amazing, right? Right. And in addition, you get a reduction in latency of up to 10%. So I think that's the fastest public cloud infrastructure, to my knowledge. And when you combine it with these ridiculous CPU and GPU nodes that are available, you link all that together, and I mean, you've got a pretty amazing supercomputer on your hands. Right. Connectivity options. Site-to-site VPN is generally, small to medium business. This is if you want to get your on-premise environment connected relatively cheaply and relatively quickly, right? If you want to deploy that Azure Everywhere program, for example, and synchronize your AD up to the cloud, site-to-site VPN is going to get you connected pretty quick. The ExpressRoute, you're going to see a few more slides, but that's a dedicated link that you're buying or renting per month. It's a service which is, it's got higher SLA, higher performance. And then at the top there, data synchronization, that is kind of, that's a separate form of connectivity. It's not like your ExpressRoute VNet, but this is a service which allows you to basically synchronize any type of data, right, in any format via this service called Azure Data Factory, and it uses data pipelines to get it into other services in Azure, right? So think, let's say SQL Data Warehouse, right? Huge SQL database offered as a platform as a service. You can take data that's in an unstructured format, whatever format you have, you can use Data Factory to take that data in a pipeline, put it into an Azure data lake, again, totally unstructured data, and then use sort of SQL data warehousing, Power BI, Cortana and Analytics Suite to do some, sort of data processing upon it. But the Data Factory is the sort of the connection that sort of service that you would implement in order to get the data up there. Application level service bus, Alonso spoke a little bit about that earlier. Let me move on here to ExpressRoute. ExpressRoute really is, for mission critical workloads, right? If you want to do backup and DR, if you want to do, let's say SQL always on replication, or you want to do Store Simple. How many have heard of Store Simple? So StoreSimple is it's a device, a virtual appliance basically. It sits on premise and it's got different storage tiers in there. So you've got SSD disks for the hot data, frequently accessed. There's some regular hard disks in there, so infrequently data can sit there, but still kind of frequently accessed. And any cold data that's not accessed for X amount of time, depending on whatever policies you set up, gets offloaded from the StoreSimple device on premise into your Azure blob store, right? So it's basically archiving your data off without you even needing to know about it, right? If it's not accessed for a year, it ships it off to the blob store, and then someone clicks on it and they want to have access to it, it'll pull it back down from your blob store and put it back on your StoreSimple device on premise. So a really cool piece of kit, products rather. VPN Gateways. So you put one of these on. This is your gateway is basically your gateway into your VNet, right? There's three levels, 3 SKUs: basic, standard, and performance. These are the throughputs you're going to get with each of those tiers, and potentially crucially as well the amount of IPsec tunnels that you can establish. So if you've got a standard site-to-site VPN gateway, right, you're going to get a maximum 100 megabit per second throughput, and you can have a maximum of 10 IPsec tunnels. If you've got 20 branch offices, this is no good for you, and you want to connect them all. You need to go with the performance level where you can have 30 IPsec tunnels, and then you're going to get 200 megabit per second as well. You can have a multi-site VPN. So, branch offices, you can create a multi-site VPN gateway up there in Azure, have all of those connecting to the same VNet. Pretty cool. That's an example of that, I suppose. So you've got your different branch offices connecting to a single VNet. Again, crucially is the IP address spacing, right? You don't have any overlapping IP address space. ExpressRoute, this is obviously good if you want predictable performance. You get an SLA on it, you get high performance, high throughput. It's totally private, so it's going out over your WAN provider is giving you a private connection directly into the Azure backbone. There's nothing to do with the internet whatsoever, right? If you go with a site-to-site VPN connection, that's basically just an IPsec tunnel over the internet, right? It's secure, yes, but it still uses the internet to get there. So with this, you're getting a dedicated pipe straight into your Azure environment. This is just another pictorial example of that. Now, interestingly, Microsoft used to say there's 3 types of peering available with ExpressRoute: public, private, and Microsoft peering. So the public peering is basically platform as a service things, right, offered in Azure. Your private peering is your virtual machines and infrastructure as a service that you're going to deploy. I mean, they used to recommend that you use your ExpressRoute to get to Office 365 as well, but more recent recommendation is that you don't use ExpressRoute to go there. And the reason for that is because of the way that O365 is architected. They basically figured out that because of the way that that's globally distributed as a service, you're actually restricting yourself if you're going to try and access it via your ExpressRoute. So that recommendation has changed pretty recently. This is the locations at which you can access ExpressRoutes available. Once you're connected to any of these, right, if you ExpressRoute into Chicago, let's say, you're on the Microsoft backbone from that point, right? You can traverse internally then using the VNet Peering I spoke about, or the VNet-to-VNet Connectivity. Basically, these are the use cases for it. So you want to use ExpressRoute if you want to do, large quantities of VM migrations from on-premise to Azure, any hybrid applications, and basically mission-critical stuff, right? Things that you generally don't just want to rely on a site-to-site VPN for. Again, that's a brief overview. You can coexist with an ExpressRoute and site-to-site VPN. So, you have your ExpressRoute and then use your site-to-site VPN tunnel as a backup, right? Why not? Doesn't cost that much for a site-to-site VPN. You do get an SLA with your ExpressRoute, but still, it's nice to have a site-to-site as a backup. And also if you want to connect a branch office, right, you can, just because you've got an express route going into your VNet, doesn't mean you can't connect another remote site via a site-to-site VPN to the same VNet. So that coexistence is pretty cool. Break time.